Hey Lance, I got an easy question for you. Is Lichdragon Fortissax trash?
Nah, Thesis Questline has me feeling good. What about you?
I'll start by saying I'm glad one of us is feeling pretty good after that joke. Um,
It's you, right?
I mean, clearly it's me. Obviously, I'm here.
Yeah, who else would it be?
I think that Lichdragon Fortissax is a really cool boss and falls safely within the category of cool spectacle type fights. And those hold a pretty warm and fuzzy place in my heart with some notable issues that I have, but we can get to those in just a second. What about you? Why do you feel pretty good about the Fortissex fight?
I think Fortissax is a really nice, almost unexpected, pleasant surprise in the same way that you said it, where he's a spectacle boss. And I love spectacle bosses. It's a dragon. That's hard to argue with. I've rarely met a dragon I didn't like, except for Dragonite. Don't at me.
Ew, what the fuck is wrong with you? You don't like Dragonite?
I think Dragonite looks like a discount Barney that does not live up to the promise that Dragonair sets up.
Dragonite can use extreme speed, which is like the best priority. Anyways, all right, so
I don't have an issue with the mechanics. It's purely the design.
The aesthetic? What, you don't like orange? What is it the fruit? Did an orange hurt you earlier in your childhood? Do you have some citrus-based trauma that's causing you a problem? Because I've got news for you, Lance. There's a lot of fucking orange in the Lichdragon Fortissex fight. There's orange all over that bitch with that death blight. You're gonna have a big problem with Lichdragon Fortissex. Okay.
Oh God.
Anyway,
nothing quite like shooting the fish in the barrel of a Pokemon fan.
More like flopping dynamite in a quarry. Because you just rocked my world.
Yep.
Holy fuck! All right, so Lichdragon Fortissex. It's a spectacle fight. You don't hate dragons except for when you do. Great. Continue, I guess.
Okay, so the big thing for me is in the same vein as Dark Eater Midir, where kind of unexpected, you have to go a little bit out of your way. I mean, Fia's questline isn't as convoluted as getting to Midir, but I really like the idea of the surprise dragon that just kind of shows up to eat your lunch, eat you, take your runes, make you sad. And Fia's questline in general is something that I really enjoyed following. So getting to the end of it, it felt very narratively complete. It was a very satisfying questline, very good story. And then, From just throws a complimentary dragon with purchase in the bag. And I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
I mean, lot.
I want to comment too on the Fia's questline piece, because this is probably, I think this is the first boss that we've talked about that is truly missable. And I guess Ryu Lucaria is technically missable, but it is missable in the sense that you are literally blind and forgot your walking stick. It's not really missable. I think Lichdragon Fortissex is actually missable in the game. And so, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you're actually the one who, told me to go get caught up on the entire quest and everything. And, Fia, the character, yes. I rarely even recognize that the Baldaquine's blessing is on me. You're also the person to inform me that, Fia is also a leech of sorts. So I'm extra interested in, your take here on this, because you discovered all of this organically, I think. Or as organically as you can experience these things. Take me back to Roundtable Hold, right? Meeting Fia for the first time, because that is really the lead-in to everything that, I guess the climax that is Godfrey and Fortissex.
Yeah. So, like you said, this was one of the first times probably in my playthrough of Elden Ring where I had leapfrogged where you were in the game, and I could kind of leave the breadcrumbs down for you to go talk to these people, go do this, go do that. And I had that sense of anticipation, knowing that you were about to see something cool. And those are rare moments because, I mean, I didn't get like any of them in the Souls games. You've played all of those. And Elden Ring was really one of the few places where I got to like get ahead of you and then see that. And for me, early on with Fia, she was, as I've mentioned in other videos already, she was a source of comfort for me. Her hugs got me through some dark times when I was starting the game and just dying constantly. It was really nice to know that at least one person had my back, you know, a shoulder to cry on. And then I learned that she was taking my health, and I appreciated it a little bit less. But there is something in that. What's up?
A small price to pay.
Yes, very small price to pay. I mean, I wasn't using that health anyways. You know?
Yeah.
Definitely not. Well, the bosses were using it. Does that count?
I mean, it is an asset of sorts, I guess, at that point.
Yeah. Health is a resource. Warlock taught me that. So there's something in the setup for Fia from the opening cinematic through when you first meet her that is very sad. Obviously, it's very melancholy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a unique theme to her character in Elden Ring or in the Souls games in general. But I really liked how they portrayed her, because at first she's just there and she's almost forgettable or missable. She doesn't stand out in the story the way that some other NPCs do. Like, I'm reminded of like Brian, how he straight up missed her for the first like half of his playthrough.
Yeah, I mean, she's sequestered off in that side bedroom, right? Everyone else is like, the first time that you get into Round Table Hold is placed in the forefront of the actual round table itself. So you would think, like, naturally progressing through, you're like, oh, I got here, and Gideon's sitting in the back, and he's like, you need to kill somebody to matter, and then you have the immediate like circle of people who quote unquote matter, unless you are inquisitive enough to like explore around. Like, you would probably be like, oh, there's what I was supposed to do, this is neat, probably opens up later, and then you just walk away, right? So it is possible.
And even if you see her, it's just a hug,
right?
Like, that's all she has at first. But like, I really liked the design. The voice actor is terrific, does a great job of like depicting the character, and the story of getting to Fortissax and kind of that intersection with Godwin's story also goes back to my first Stormvale experience, where I wish we had footage of this, but at one point on the roofs, I fell to my death because I just missed a jump, and you were watching me at the time. And when I died in the basement area, down by where the tree spirit spawns.
Right.
And when I died, we both noticed, like, right on the ground, I fell at that point where the death blight has like emerged from the earth, and you can see the grotesque face of Godwin that is echoed in deeproot depths in the Fortissex boss room.
Right.
And we were like, what the hell is that? And then I kind of forgot about it because it was just a weird, like, what kind of like pavement is this? I had no idea what I was looking at. And then Rogier starts to talk about the death blight and what he found underneath the castle later on when he gets to Round Table Hold, and his quest line intersects with Fia's and then goes off into Ronnie's as well. But following that kind of very vague, very, I don't even want to say murky, because every quest line is murky, but there is something about the way that Fia sends you off in search of the knife print and the way that she interacts with Dee, that even for the standard of like
a Souls game,
an opaque quest and opaque narrative, like, there is something about how all of that sets up that is especially like very, very opaque, and I really enjoyed seeing it unfold. I mean, I was sad about Dee. I liked his character, and that kind of reminds me of something that you had mentioned about how often there's like, you need to kill some people to be somebody, and here are the other people right in the middle of Round Table Hold that are somebody already. Like, Dee sends you to talk to Garok.
Right.
He puts you on a pretty big trail right away.
Right.
Corin is a vendor, so he matters in a kind of different way because his gold mask intersection is later in the game.
Right.
Like, the blacksmith, very clear purpose there. You have your spirit tuner. You have, well, actually, yeah, Ensha is kind of the only other one who doesn't have a clear purpose at first.
Right.
Like, no real purpose beyond the giving
Other,
you the emote.
other than being an ass, yeah.
Yeah, I mean later on, yeah, squarely in the like I'm just here to be a dick. But Fia is not super forward with what
Right.
her quest line's going to entail until she decides to just pull the rug out from under you, and D is dead.
By the way, I mattered
At that point, you
the
just
whole
think,
time.
yeah, exactly. Like you go do the knife print quest, you get Rozier teed up to die in his sleep.
Right.
You give Fia, the information that she needs. She's like, hey, go give this dagger back to somebody. And he's like, yeah, I'll take that off your hands. And then you reload and he dies. That was one of the first like persistent world changes where one of the NPCs had died for me as well on my first playthrough. I hadn't done a bunch of the other things like Volcano Manor or the other quest lines where like you can have pretty large impacts on who is still alive in your playthrough. So getting sent down underground through deeper depths and like the preceding areas, I'm going to ignore the Valiant Gargoyles because I really don't want to talk about that misery. But
Well, can I
going
can I
through all
can
of
I
that,
pause you on the Valiant Gargoyles? Like I do have a
sure.
statement on them, and my statement is that they are the continuous proof that FromSoft really doesn't know how to recapture the lightning in the bottle that is Ornstein and Smell. Like those two fights are just like not that good. That's what there is to be said about the Valiant Gargoyles, is that they're just like they are intensely underwhelming, but also intensely annoying. Like every
Yep.
time you die, you don't get the yeah, that was my fault. Like getting fucking blinked from both sides isn't a challenge. That's fucking prison.
Yep.
Sorry.
Or the war crime of poison gassing the entire battlefield.
That is fucking ridiculous. Like it is so stupid. No one can say like, well, herder, you gotta get good. Like getting like having someone just hit you out of your field of view isn't like get good. That's like evolve to have eyes in the back of your head. Like that's not
We're
that's
playing
not
the wrong
fair.
game.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Bloodborne.
Exactly. And then like exactly, it is Bloodborne. And like the whole poison thing, it just felt like sometimes there are bosses that just feel like insult to injury. And I don't know that there are any other gargoyles that carry the poison attribute forward. I think that's the only one, which is like, you're just rubbing a cigarette into my fucking leg. Sick. Love that. Like, good. I guess. That's all I had to say on that. There's literally nothing else that's of note. And the only other thing that is cool about that part is that you meet Dee's brother right before the gargoyles, and you can summon him into the arena. And that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Dee's brother was a cool addition. I liked that.
Yeah.
I did kind of hold a grudge when he offs Fia, but then I was like, okay, Fia did kind of kill D, so I can't blame him.
Like, I understand.
Se.
Like, I'm mad at you, but I understand, right?
Yeah, like, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I get it, I guess.
Are you disappointed, or are you disappointed?
Oh. Is that what it's like?
That's exactly what it's like.
I did not like that. Like, all of that is backdrop, but Deeproot Depths itself, which, it doesn't really tell you you're getting to Fia's quest in and of itself, unless you know how to read the room.
Right.
That was a very fun experience for me. Like, fun. Okay, not fun. It was an interesting experience because the big ants are terrifying.
Right.
I got bonked a few times. I got sniped a few times. You find some cool items in the little ant tunnel off to the right side, and then
Newman runes, those are really good.
Yeah, those are tasty. I felt very rewarded, I guess would be the right way to put it. Like, Deeper Depths felt dangerous but very rewarding, and I enjoyed going through it.
Do you remember my first run through at Deeper Depths in that little ant cave? And I was like, Lance, check this out. I'm gonna totally kill all these big ants and avoid all the conflict. And I shot them all with arrows, and then all of the ants dropped at once from above. And you're like, look at all this conflict that you avoided, Kai.
Yes. Yes. Because I didn't want to spoil that for you.
I'm glad you did it.
I didn't want to ruin that moment of sadness. But the first half of Deeproot Depths, really fun. Then you get to the next, maybe not half, but the next piece is the Basilisk area. And that's where, like, if you can kind of track on how FromSoft will like theme enemies to an area for what's coming next, you can kind of figure out, oh, I'm probably getting close to a Deathblight thing. But like, I had no context for that my first playthrough. I was just like, oh, basilisks, awesome. These are the things that have the really tiny eyes, not the big eyes that aren't real eyes. They're like butterflies with eyes on their wings. And that was a experience. I don't think I actually died to the Deathblight on that my first playthrough, because I was very, very, very cautious.
That's
Mostly
fair.
because I'd seen you play through the other Souls games, and I knew that gargoyles were scary, or not gargoyles, basilisks were scary. So I gave them a very healthy amount of respect
Think of
that I
nightmares.
never showed them again.
Yep, that's fair. Well, they're never as dangerous as they were in Dark Souls 1.
True. Yeah, they
Like,
are
they don't
way
hold
worse
they
than
don't,
Souls.
they don't hold the same penalties. And that doesn't, don't get me wrong, instant death sucks. But instant death, and I take away half your health, and you have to run it back to the beginning of the game, and you have to pay somebody's souls, and then you can like get your health back. Infinitely worse chain
And
of
then you can-
events.
Yeah, and then you can fight your way back to those same basilisks to die to them again.
Just to do it all again.
Yeah. That's purgatory.
Yeah, exactly.
But the rune bears were an unpleasant surprise in Deeproot Depths.
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out there. The first one scared the shit out of me, because I was still looking at waterfalls as opportunities.
Right.
I mean, like any RPG, if you put a waterfall in there, the players are gonna look behind it.
Yeah.
You know, that's like
Yeah.
that's just rule. It's not rule one, but it's right in
pretty
it's in the Ten
close.
Commandments.
Yeah.
If you throw a waterfall there, I expect there to be an item or a secret passageway or something cool. You always check waterfalls, and I found a rune bear. And then I honestly thought that the mausoleum was going to kind of be the end of it, because once you finish that area out, you've got the Crucible Knight. You have Siluria.
Yep.
So I was kind of expecting that to be okay, I did something cool in this zone. Then I started jumping up the tree branches. I died so many times to those fucking melted gargoyles.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah. The
I-
sentinel things.
I struggled with them a lot. But you get through all that, you get your Sight of Grace, you go in. That boss arena is ominous.
So
Like-
I'm gonna pause you because I wanna
Uh-huh.
catch up with you on Deeproot Depths, because this
Sure.
is probably one of the most pivotal moments in my playthrough that I went through, because when
Sure.
you first get into the Deeproot Depths, you fight the
Uh-huh.
Erdtree avatar, and I
Yep.
got the weapon that carried me through the rest of the game. I got the Staff of the
Yep.
Avatar, and I remember.
Talk about that.
Oh my god,
Let's go.
So I was really skeptical about it. I was playing a strength and a faith build, and I had like enough knowledge to know that I didn't care what anything was going to do to me, because I had a tree trunk. Like up to that point in the game, I had the tree trunk as like my guide, my North Star. Like nothing was going to stand against me. And then they said, "All right, but what if we put the tree trunk in gold leaf?" And I'm like, that is interesting. And then they said, "Now, hear me out. You haven't done this all game. Press the L2 button." And then this video has quickly turned into why I love Staff of the Avatar. But I had the AoE butt slam, and I remember
You were Bowser.
I was Bowser, and I remember running into like the ant cave and seeing a bunch and going, "Hey Lance, watch this sick ass trick," and fucking fart cannoning the entire ant colony. I was the queen now. It was awesome. But then like I actually went up the tree branches first, and I had landed in front of the like boss arena room, and you had said, "Don't go in there yet." Okay, we're setting up. Because I'm about to tell the tale of how I trivialized Siluria. I had gotten up to like the little ambush spot before Siluria. Again, demonstrated the might of the L2 button on Staff of the Avatar and killed like 5 things at once. You said, "Jesus Christ." And I said, "Hey Lance, that guy looks like a that guy looks like a Crucible Knight. And you knew that I had had trouble with Crucible Knights, and I maintained having trouble with them all throughout the rest of my first playthrough. But I noticed something that you did not. I realized that I could ride Torrent. And maybe before we get to
Yup.
what happened to Siluria, I think we need to talk about what I did to one of those Mausoleum Knights, because we were experimenting with the upgrade from the Great Club to the Colossal Weapon, right? And
Yeah, we played croquet.
yeah, I ran around and we just laughed at the fact that I could pitch the knights upward into the sky by charging an R2. And yeah, the deeproot depths were cool and everything. Big underground thing. Mausoleum was fun. Nothing will be better than me going around playing croquet with Mausoleum Knights. All right? That is what that zone is to me. It is me running around like a lunatic, pitching people into the sky. I don't think that I fully appreciated the zone, because that was so at the forefront of my experience. And then back to Siluria, I hopped on Torrent and you said no. And I said yes. And we spent all of the Siluria fight pitching Siluria into the sky with charged R2s back and forth. And you just sat there fuming like, I hate you. I hate that you did this. And I
was so angry.
Trivialized that fight. But the rest of the deeproot depths is legitimately a cool zone, because what I liked the most about it was like it just kept like expanding, and the fact that they fit a whole mausoleum into the space, right? I think that did set a pretty good sense of scale as far as underground zones go. Like, that part was cool. So
Yeah,
now,
I think they lived up to like the promise of the first time you go down to Shifra.
Yeah.
When you get that huge skybox opening up.
Yes.
Like, they did a really good job of like saying, hey, that wasn't a one-off, just, if you were concerned.
If you were wondering. Right, exactly.
Yeah, like, we'll do it again.
Yeah, exactly. I will resonate the pain of the melted fire sentry guns. I'm pretty sure I jumped off of a branch a lot and died.
You did.
I'm very confident that happened.
You did. Watching you go through that was painful for me. You've said this before, where like my pain was fighting things, your pain was watching me fight things.
Yep.
That was the inverse for me, where I had suffered and failed enough times that I knew how to deal with them, and you did not, and I had to watch you not.
So then that lands us at like the entryway to, Fia and that whole encounter space. So I think now, like, you can, like, let's unpack your thoughts there, right? We've kind of unpacked the deeproot depths. What were your thoughts entering that zone?
I want to go home.
Okay. You have very consistent thought patterns for most of these boss fights.
Yes, I do. Maybe I wouldn't if I wasn't right so goddamn often. Like, I don't enjoy being correct about how miserable these bosses made me my first time, but, that's kind of why we're here.
That's your cross to bear, right?
Yeah, exactly. These are my mistakes.
So then you walk in, and it is kind of a grotesque arena, right? Like, big fuck-off tree in the background, a crater of, like, what I can only imagine is just, like, it is syphilis everywhere.
I mean, yeah, there's really no better way to say it. So, before I talk about this some more, remind me, was it when you were in there the first time that you just completely did not notice the Godfrey face?
Oh, yes, that was
Or the Godwin face?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember, because I thought it was, but I was like, at one point, it was you or Jimmy, somebody who, like, just didn't notice, and eventually I said something, I was like, you do see that face.
I'm pretty sure it was me, but I was so focused on, when I first went in there, I remember watching you fight Fortissex is in your most recent, like, that was the thing that was most freshly on my mind. And I kept mixing Fortissex and Fortissex up. Like, I didn't realize that they were two separate entities. And so, like, I was just really confused walking in, because I remember the Fortissex arena. I remember one, you had trouble with Fortissex, and then I remember the arena just looking way different from, like, Syphilis, the battle arena. Like
Yeah.
that
Plus,
was
you knew I was further in.
right. So I was
Like,
like, I was like, there's no way. I didn't see. I was waiting for the pivot to happen. So I was like
yep.
looking at all the other detailing around the arena and not noticing like the big obvious drops. Right. I was just like, I was wrong on so many levels. Is what I'm trying to
Missing
say.
the forest for the death blight.
Yeah, exactly. But then I did walk forward, and then the Fia's champion started. And then I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to press the L2 button.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'll talk about things that just infuriated me.
and you were like, oh yeah, because you made it such a big deal. You're like, don't go in there yet. And I'm like, oh, well, Lance is farther in the game than I am. Like, he probably thinks that this place fucks, whether he's right or not, but I should just be careful. I walked in there and I was like, is that 3 people at one time? I'm gonna literally shit on these kids. And I pressed the L2 button.
That math kicked in. You know, in WoW, the rotation rule, where usually it's 3+ targets when you switch to your AoE rotation from the single target for like most classes. That 3 number is just ingrained, I think, for both of us, where 3,
AoE,
time to cleave.
It's time to cleave. That's right. The Unga Bunga mindset just took over my body, and I was smashing LT like it was going out of style. And I'm not gonna lie, that was one of my favorite. That also sold me on Staff of the Avatar. Super underrated weapon. That was one of my favorite moments in the entire gameplay experience. And then I got sad because I had to kill Roger. That made me really sad. I didn't like that. But I was glad that he could walk again, for what it's worth. That made me happy.
Yeah.
Just for me to make sure he couldn't walk ever again. As fucked up as that is. But one thing that I never actually asked you, again, because I wasn't watching you at this point, I don't think. Like, what made them so hard for you? Because you spoke like there was a trauma that was unearthed just by the sight of the doorway. Like, did you see a Dragonite before you walked in? Like, what was that?
It was actually a Dragonite when I walked in. I think I'm gonna blame this. I don't know if it's true. I also sucked, still do, but I was worse at the time.
Right.
I think that, I mean, it's kind of luck of the draw for who you get for Fia's champions.
Right.
Like, Lionel is fixed, but everything else, like, it's just random. I maintain that I got a way worse hand on who I fought the first time.
Yeah.
Than you did.
Probably.
I also probably showed them more respect, and not in a productive way.
Yeah. I do remember that it took you a pretty long time to get to where you disrespected everything, right? Swing first, ask questions later.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then that probably let them set up, and then they got a little spread out, and then I can see how that would be painful.
If Lionel starts summoning the like floating skulls,
GG.
It's like his Rancor call or whatever spells it is he's using. Like that's really nasty.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that fight though in general, like I actually like that encounter set on the whole. And maybe it's because like I know they're not strong enough to stand up, like to be a real threat. But it's just like a fun time to let loose on like AoE spells that maybe a more conservative player would never really think to use. And I'm just like, fuck it, we're gonna give it a shot. We're gonna see if I can kill all of them in one hit. And so like, is it the most challenging boss? Now, no. I can see why it was difficult at the time, but it is consistently one of my favorite boss encounters in the game.
Yeah, it's a chance to like kind of cut loose.
Right.
In a way, like you know, you don't have to take it seriously, and like if you die, yeah, it can suck, especially if you get like somebody who's just bleed spam build. But it's hard to take personally because you're not going to fight them again the next time, probably.
Right.
Like you don't. It doesn't have that like, well, I have to like throw myself at the wall until I get these mechanics down solid. Like that friction doesn't exist.
I want to take my Radon build in there, and I want to go Estelle's Meteor.
Okay, you want to take your Radon build everywhere.
And Estelle's Meteor. That's the important part of all this.
Yeah.
Just to watch everything blow up.
Yeah, that's not new.
Well, maybe new to someone listening. They may not even know you can take a Radon build anywhere and Estelle's Meteor or anything.
Yeah, okay, so for anybody listening, if you want the silliest power fantasy I have ever seen, go cosplay as Radon.
Get a Stealth
Just
Meteor, so
do
you
it.
have to like
The
basically
Stealth
beat the
Meteor,
game,
yeah.
and then you need to get the physic that makes sure that you don't lose any FP, and you need a Flame Grant Me Strength, and then you hold down the cast magic button, and don't let go no matter what. And you will
Yeah,
go
there you
on
go,
a
complimentary build guide.
you will go on a fucking crazy ride. So I think I've maybe meandered on Fierce Champions a little bit here. I think we can talk about the rest of this now.
I mean, you clearly, like, you have very warm feelings about Fierce Champions. That's good.
I do. So,
like, it's not Fortissex in and of himself, but it's a part of the fight.
well, this is
In my mind, or it's a
Fortissex.
part of the process.
It's Fortissex and Fia's questline, so like
Yeah.
it is explicitly part of Fia's questline. It is the bouncer to the club of Lichdragon Fortissex, right? So like, you know, you need to talk about how like you encountered the bouncers, plural, and meteored them with Meteor of a Cell.
Meanwhile, I was just running around like a maniac, spamming dodge, jump, and trying to power stance through them, which
it worked eventually.
But it was really a meteor of a different kind, you know?
That's right. It was a meteor of a different kind. Like they were the meteor, and you were prehistoric life.
Yeah, and I was the dinosaur.
That's right. So you finally beat them. What happened to you after that? Like because it's not just like it's you beat them and then you talk to Fia. Like how did you figure out that you're supposed to like go talk to Fia and then like rest and then go back? I don't know. Like how did you piece the chain of events together to actually like trigger the boss arena of Fortissex?
Yeah, so I went back to all of Deeper Depths after I had caught up on Ronnie's quest.
Okay.
Because I'm a Ronnie simp. So if she had new content, that was the content I was going to do.
She has 4 hands. I mean, it's hard to.
She has 4 hands.
It's hard to deny. Do you know what you could do with 4 hands, Lance?
You could throw so many baseballs.
You can throw 4 Draconite Pokeballs out at one time.
You are not gonna let this go.
I mean, I can't let the shit take slide.
Just saying, it's an orange Barney, and that's not good character design.
It's a fucking animal. That's like saying that your dog doesn't have good character design.
My dog doesn't look like Barney. Sorry.
All right. Anyways, so Ronnie was current content. She was a simp.
Yep.
You were a simp.
So yeah. So, like, I think I already had the other curse mark.
Okay.
From the study hall.
Okay.
When I went to Fia after beating her champions. And I'm pretty sure after you beat her champions, you also didn't notice Fia at the boss arena.
Yeah.
Like, I remember having to point her out to you as well.
Look, Kai.
I talked to Fia. I got the Radiant Baldekin's Blessing, and I basically just kept talking to her, thinking like, oh yeah, her quest line's gonna progress now. Like, we're probably wrapping it up soon. I hope. She's talking about Godwin and those who live in death. She's saying ominous shit. You know, it's par for the course. And then enter the deathbed dream just kind of shows up as an option once you give her the curse mark.
Yep.
She was like, I'm gonna sleep now, you know, and then I will create this rune and it's gonna be awesome. And it would mean a lot to me if you were our Elden Lord. It's like, okay, I can track with all of this. Like, I'm not gonna do it because Ronnie, but
right.
I can track with it. So I go into the dream, and I'm expecting to like maybe see Fia, or like I didn't have this specific expectation, but in Dark Souls 2, when you go back into the memories of King Leoric,
yeah,
you know, like that's kind of more
like,
what I was.
Yeah, like the crown, like that whole crown sequence when you go back in time and you like reunite the crowns, and he's talking about like what it means to be king and stuff like that. You were expecting to be like a dialogue.
Yeah, I was expecting it to probably be like with like a memory of Godwin maybe, or like a vision of like this future that Fia had in mind, like something like that. And then a fucking 4-winged dragon just kind of shows up
out of nowhere.
Ooh, there are a lot of moments in Souls games where you realize that you don't know how to fight something new. Every fight for me like was like that. Every encounter. This was one in a very new and painful way, because nothing I tried on that bastard worked. I couldn't be close to him. I couldn't be away from him. Like the ancient dragons, the four-winged ones, like, fight very differently mechanically from the like world dragons. For me, they did.
They do because
you
they have
you don't play them
access.
the same way.
Yeah, they have access to different move structures. Like they share a lot of like draconic similarities with some attacks, but like Fortissex distinctly has access to the lightning spear that he'll throw on the ground, and he does the like lightning wave AoE, not present in any of the other drakes that are like the world drakes. So
Yep.
I mean, you're correct. He does fight differently. He also adds in like he adds in the arena restrictions with the Deathblight clouds. Like, yeah, you should have not felt like all the strategies of your Drake hunting up to this point could be copy pasted over to what Fortissax was, because it was different. He's different.
Yep. And just his safe spots, very different.
Oh yeah.
Like what the world dragons like kind of teach you about, oh yeah, stand here, don't stand here. This is how you get tail swiped, that sort of thing. This is how you get stomped. Very little of that carries over. Like I think Fortissex, and this is why he reminds me of Midir in retrospect, it's like safer to fight from the front.
Right.
Bosses, like you want to kind of be in front of their jaw where you can see their full moveset.
Right.
Like, because I mean, you remember my issues with Midir. Like I couldn't beat him until I unhooked the camera and basically just stood in front of his mouth the entire time.
Because otherwise the model's so big you can't see anything coming.
Yeah, it was just too hard to dodge too much of his moveset, and like Fortissex kind of had the same thing. But with that being said, as far as boss fights go, terrific spectacle. Like just top-notch spectacle. Like you get a little bit of that lightning. You can kind of see what's coming up with Lanceax. Is that? I don't know how it's pronounced.
Oh, the one that's in Farum Azula.
No, not the Farum Azula. The one that ambushes you on your way in to Altus Plateau.
Oh yeah. Because he does.
I think it's Lanceax. I just don't remember if that's how it's pronounced. Because they've got that weird, like, it's not Siofra, it's Shifra, because it's like a Welsh, I think. Sorry if anybody in Wales is listening and it's not.
Welsh or is it Gaelic?
It might be Gaelic, but either way, it's Shifra. And I think that might be the same thing as like for Lanceax. I could see it being like Lanchier or something like that instead.
Yeah.
But either way,
dragon, yeah, okay.
That dragon with the lightning attacks, and it's just a really cool moveset. I've really enjoyed the Fortissex.
Was there a specific attack that gave you more trouble than others in his moveset?
Like, I don't want to just give a glib answer and say all of them.
For me, the piece that was difficult was learning how to deal with the pulsating lightning that he does, because he does the stab attack and the lightning hits in waves, and I think it's off of his dragon spear. And this wasn't necessarily something that killed me, but it was something that annoyed me until I found out you can hide behind his foot, and it technically counts as collision and it dissipates the lightning, so it's a safe space behind his like hind leg. That was probably the most notable thing. The thing that I could see giving people a little bit of trouble is the air bomb attack, where he flies up in the sky and like just does a slam down. I feel like if you haven't dodged a lot of those before, that is a very scripted and rote part of Dragon Arsenal. It's like Dragon 101 in the Souls games, but if you're pretty new to it, I'd imagine like that's a timing that it's like, oh, I've never seen this before, and this attack's getting all big and high up in the sky, and he's about to fuck me in the butt, and then he does, and you don't know that like rolling forward is like the best option and stuff like that. So I feel like that probably could get somebody.
I mean, it definitely got me. That aerial like hang time and then ground slam was one of the last things that I really figured out for dragons in general, because like you said, it's weird timing and you need to go forward, and until that clicked, like, it was tough.
Right. Would you say that Fortissex is a hard fight now?
No, I don't think so.
That's something that I've been chewing on for a while, as to whether like his difficulty makes him a worse boss or not after the first time that you fought him. And I don't think the answer is I don't think it does. I don't think he is like I think he's a really good boss, and I think he does the like draconic enemy encounter well and the big enemy variety encounter well. Um but and I think a lot it's all because of like the spectacle and the lead up. Like we're in like it's everything surrounding him, and Deeproot Depths is not like a very big zone, but Fortissex capstones it really well. It's kind of harkens back to like when we were talking about Godric, and we were like, Stormveil is this super awesome zone, and then it's capstoned with like a mediocre boss. Like Deeproot Depths is like a really cool, unique, and compact zone that's capstoned with a really awesome boss. I think there is something that I would feel kind of hypocritical if I didn't mention this. I don't think he's very dangerous. The Death Blight doesn't tick up fast enough for him to like really kill you, and even the attack that I would say gave me the most trouble was more of it annoyed me the most out of all the present abilities. I never really felt like I was in danger. The way he kills you is through the accumulation of multiple tiny mistakes, which isn't bad. Like it's not terrible. It's just not. He's just not that threatening, right? And that is kind of a parallel that I can draw with Godric, is where I don't feel like they're like a huge threat, and that's kind of a subjective opinion. That's a perception on my end, right? I don't know if you feel similarly, but that's kind of how I perceive Fortissex.
Yeah, kind of if you're gonna die, it's like you lose the battle of attrition more than anything else.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because I'm sure that I probably did that to some things like pretty quickly, but typically on my first Fortissex pulls, it was I ran myself out of flasks through, like you said, a lot of aggregated kind of mistakes.
Right.
And eventually you just run out of fuel. Or you make too many mistakes in short succession and can't heal them off.
And I think the other thing too is my first time fighting him again, Staff of the Avatar is going to come in. I bulldozed the fuck out of that mob. I got so many staggers. I just went and I beat up his back leg like it was going out of style. So I've got just a super jaded opinion of, not jaded, that's the wrong word. I've just got a very like concrete memory of my first time fighting him, and I re-simulated it several times now at this point, but on my Radon playthrough, I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is literally the shittiest run of this boss anyone could ever create, and I'm not even close to losing. I was getting hit by so many things. I was like churning through my Estus, and I fucked that boss. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I just absolutely destroyed that boss. So, yeah, I mean,
like not even as like a testament of skill, just like because if you can keep your mistakes at a like allowable threshold, you can burn through your Estus and still be fundamentally like okay.
Right. No, that's exactly right. So like I from my perspective as someone who's played through the games and has seen a lot of similar things before, I think I think he's more of like a taste for what Fortissex is, right? I think Fortissex is the refined version of what Fortissex is. And I still, like, that doesn't change the fact that I really like Fortissex, and I look forward to fighting Fortissex every time that I start a new character. I get genuinely interested in that entire part of the game, and I think part of that, too, is because he's placed in a really good spot. He's on the, I think he's positioned in the place where you're about to get a lot of upgrade materials, so, like, you're about to start doing a lot of cool damage, and so he in a way is kind of like a test for you to see if you can just like whoop ass a little bit. And on top of that, he is visually appealing, and I love the combination of the red lightning and the death blight together. I think that ties into his like, it gives him a little bit of narrative cohesion, right? Because like we haven't even really talked about that, right? Like the actual narrative implication of him being where he's at, right? I'm pretty sure I said Godric at some time.
No! My name's not Red!
At some point. It's Godfrey. No, it's Godwyn. Godwyn.
There you go.
Like, Godwyn and Fortissex have like a really, his being there is like kind of sad because like Godwyn and him were best friends. Well, they were fighting and then they became best friends because they respected each other so much. And then when, you know, Mommy Rani went and had Godwyn killed, Fortissex was like, he went like looking for his friend. He's like, I've got to save my friend. And in that like search to save his friend, like Fortissex was lost too. Like, and so it's just this tragedy, right? Like, it's a tragedy with good intentions. That's the worst part about it. It makes you kind of realize that even the non-humanoid characters are capable of great empathy, which is something that I don't think a lot of like fantasy worlds do really well, right? And they didn't even have to write a line of dialogue for this guy to do it, right?
Yep.
I think that's very cool.
It's all very indirect storytelling, and it's still like really good.
Yeah, and so I think the fact that like he has the draconic lightning abilities intertwined with the death blight is just another piece of like subtle world building and theming, a way to demonstrate their narrative without having to say anything.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything to add to that because it's very well said. I agree.
Thanks. I really like this boss. I think this is a really cool boss from a lore perspective. So
Yeah.
I've got the music teed up.
Okay.
I have held off on my first impression of the boss because it is tied in with the track.
I've been waiting for you to drop that. So, okay.
So
Go for it.
when you
Run with it.
first enter the boss arena, Fortissex is scripted to roar as dragons do. But when he roars, it is synchronized to a choir that is tuned up rather than being really bassy. It is tuned up towards like your altos and sopranos to almost give you like this herald of doom. And the reason it's layered that way is because the roar from Fortissex is super bassy, so it balances out the entire chord. But the way it literally sounds is like it is the horns of doom like echoing throughout the boss arena. Basically, Fortissex is like, I got some news for you. You're totally fucked. You stand no chance.
You're dead, kid.
You're dead, kid. So, and I think what I wrote here is kind of funny. Fortissex's opening theme opens almost with a Herald of Doom mission statement and with an instrumentation that is distinctly gothic, and that is true because you see a pervasive use of the pipe organ here. And then you combine that with a giant dragon and 2 fistfuls of red lightning, and I would say that you have a setting that is slightly ominous. Slightly. Just slightly.
Ever so slightly.
Our main instrumentation here is going to be pipe organ, cello, and the choir. Again, like this is very gothic instrumentation. This is a gothic instrumentation through and through. The tonality of it all is really settled in around the 24-second mark, where it is morose, it's sad. In the word that I have here, it sounds like an active act of despair, like somebody is currently despairing about something. The verb, the action of being sad, and that I think really ties into again, it's the story, right? The act of despairing. Why would the boss be despairing about something? Because he's sad that he's lost his friend. Not just that he's lost his friend, but like he'll never get him back, and he has lost himself in the conquest. That is a terribly sad thing to like have. That's a terribly sad thing to have happen to anyone, right? Like that's awful. So the fact that it's not just like gnashing of teeth, dragon, it brings this like human element to who Fortissex is, right? And the trials and tribulations that he has to go through. So it is, again, another instance where we have like intelligently inserted emotions inside the instrumentation to help convey the story, right? So then, accompanying the cello, there is a very faint violin line that echoes throughout the tune, like is pervasive throughout the entire thing. What I like to think about that as is it is the fleeting line of humanity that Fortissex is looking for, right? Represented as an instrument. Compare, like when you combine the violin with a pipe organ and a cello and a choir, unless you have like 50 of them bitches, you aren't going to hear it come through. But they made sure that the sound of the violin was loud enough that you knew it was there if you were listening hard enough. Just like Fortissex, when venturing into the deathbed dream, he knows that he knows that Godwin is there somewhere, right? And it's a question. Godwin is there partially. His self, his being, his mind, his spirit, that part's gone. His body's there. But his friend's still looking because he's getting these glimpses of this person being there. That's what the violin, to me, that's what that represents, right? So then at the 1 minute 58 second mark, we get the phase transition inside of the song, and it just sinks deeper into the Herald of Doom concept. We start to get this chanting, it pairs with percussion, and this is more, again, the whole song is really just the chronicle of their friendship or of Godwin and Fortissex's relationship. This is what I consider the downfall of Fortissex. We've lost hope. Fortissex lost himself, right? Phase 2 is the full recognition of the consumption of Fortissex. Now, not only is Godwin gone, but Fortissex is gone too. It is completely sunken into despair. To me, the percussion and the choir and the organ, it's almost like it's all speaking to the Tarnished to end the suffering of the dragon. He'll never stop looking until he's dead, right? This is a mercy killing. Like so many other killings in this game, this is a mercy killing. In phase 1, we're almost experiencing empathy to like the problem, right? And then when we get to phase 2, all we're left with is this dutiful call to action to stop the dragon, to save the dragon through death. I mean, it's a beautiful piece, right? Like, I think that there are a lot of beautiful pieces inside of Elden Ring as a whole. Like, all of them are good and really smart and intelligent and all that shit. But there are very few things that are as relatable in such a widespread manner as having a friend, right? And so this boss fight and this song is a story about friendship. And that's what makes it super relatable and thus a masterpiece for this boss. So, Dragon, pretty good. That's what I got.
Dragon, pretty good. I'm really glad I don't get to read what you're gonna say beforehand, because that was fucking beautiful, dude.
Thanks, man. I have a really hard time with the rating, and I think that's the next logical progression point past this boss, right? I have a hard time rating Fortissex because I think that Fortissex falls into a lot of similar pitfalls that other bosses that I have rated lower falls into. Specifically, it's the threat factor. I don't feel like he is a big threat, kind of like Godric. I feel like they share similar issues where I feel like maybe I should have been in more danger. I should have maybe been required a little bit more perfection and mastery over the fight to get there. But I love the theme and the story of Fortissex better than Godric. And so that's why I get conflicted where, I really rated Godric harshly. I said I think he's a D or a C or something. It was low. He's chilling down there in the bottom of our mental tier list right now by himself in my mind. And so I guess I get a little, I'm stuck, right? So maybe I'm gonna do the cowardice thing and ask you where you rate him first.
Okay. I don't have as much trouble with the rating, I think. Because, I like him better than Godric. And if nothing else, maybe not as a specific boss fight, just in a vacuum, but I loved Fia's questline a lot.
Like the sequence itself.
Yeah, and in a way, I think that's because I really enjoy like getting drawn into a narrative,
Right.
and you fight Godric pretty early. He's built up. That like I liked the Godric fight, just to put that out there for any like Godric simps. Or
Who
stands,
exist, by the way.
you know, however you identify, like that's cool. I like the Godric fight, but the Fia questline like takes place over so much time in the game and so many different places
Right.
that I was really invested in everything that led through to like learning about Godwyn
Mhm.
and the bigger themes, not just Fia and not just Rogier, not just D and his brother, also D, but the way that it intersected with Garank. And I think we're kind of doing spoilers, but I'll not go down that road too much further.
Game's been out for a year. There are spoilers.
Yeah, I really enjoyed going through the deeper depths, like all of the different pieces that lead into the fight with Fortissex, and then also it gets a really nice, like, not recontextualization, but you learn more about his relationship with Godwyn when you get into Altus and Lanedell from
Right.
some of the lore swords,
Yep.
the monuments,
Yep.
and all of that together, like, creates this picture
Yeah.
that is larger to me than a lot of the other images that the game builds up. Probably because I also just love dragons.
That's fair. Dragons
You know,
are
like
cool.
that's it's going to be really hard for me to like rate a dragon poorly. Sorry, spoiler for all future dragon videos too, I guess, but they're all going to be pretty cool for me. Like I don't like the Fortissex fight as much as Margit, but I would say overall it's probably a B for me. No, I am gonna give it an A.
Okay.
But if Margit is still higher, and that's not just the Fortissex fight itself, because I didn't have a ton to say mechanically there. It was challenging, it was unique, it was a nice like taste, like you said, of like Placidusax and Lanziax, and like the things that would be like in the future.
Yeah.
But for me, I can't just look at Fortissex in a vacuum. I have to look at it in the context of like the Fia questline, Fia's champions, like the things we went through with Rogier. All of that together, I loved, and that whole experience is absolutely an A for me.
Yeah, and I think I mean that's why we do videos this way, and we don't just talk exclusively about the boss. It's like the Elden Ring and the Souls experiences are so tailored around everything surrounding the climax, right? Because bosses should be punctuation to a period of the game. That's how everything, all the trials around it mean anything is in the context of what got you to the fog door. So I mean, I think that's the perfect way to look at it. You know, I'm like teetering between a B and an A too. Candidly, like I think that the story between Godwyn and Fortissex is one that I can relate to a lot, and like not that like I've like lost a friend. I mean, everyone's lost friends, but just like the idea of friendship is something that is very human. I feel like the surrounding narrative like tones of Fortissex outweigh the ones that are like my gameplay comparison point of like Godric, where I feel like he is kind of easy. He's kind of steamrollable in a lot of ways. All the way they wrote the music, the story that it's trying to tell, the visual appeal of like I'm gonna say the weird visual appeal of like this death and decayed space in the midst of like this giant root of the Erd tree is like, man, like it's so damn cool. It's so cool. And like I would say it's on par with like how much I love Margit as a character concept, Morgott as a character concept. I think it's a B. I think like it's a really good fight, and I think that the things that are keeping it from being an A is that I just wish that the fight carried a little bit more on its own. I think that I think that that's probably as high as I can give it in my mind. And I still, like, a B doesn't mean it's a bad fight. B is like a good fight.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? That's what we think. Let us know down in the comments below, and if you're enjoying this boss talk discussion, then, you know, maybe drop a like, drop a subscribe, and help the channel out. Share it with your friends if you want to have your own conversation about what a boss is and all that great stuff that Lance and I are doing here. And until next time, guys, see you later.